It was probably a white Jeep at one point.
It's white.
I don't know. For some reason, I kind of see it, and it's like, oh, it's an egg color.
No, it's white.
Yeah,
it's really.
You keep saying that.
No, Dave.
No, I understand that.
I promise you, it is.
It might have been.
No, it is.
But you know how sometimes a thing leaves an impression in your head, and you're like, it's white, but is it?
It's American made, and so it only works sometimes.
What are you, Tabitha? Are you trying to give me shit? I'm just saying. It's just stating an impression. Jeez, you want to fight?
We are Squawking Dead, a podcast pulverizing programs beyond the Walking Dead universe. Sometimes we give you news, sometimes we make you laugh. Most times we go deep. I'm your host, David Cameo, and I'm joined by Bridget, aka Punky Brewster, who you can find on ko-fi.com/PunkyBrewster. It's PUNKYBRUISETER. And today we're here to talk about From's 6th episode of its 3rd season titled Scar Tissue. So folks, let's get a little closer. We should just come closer.
What?
This episode probably has come out after Halloween, which means it's possible that you may have missed out on our new or rejoining membership sign-on bonus, which means you could have gotten a sticker pack and keychains and pins and stuff that would send you to thank you for joining a membership. And if you happen to join the Whisperers, Great M, or Survivors tier, the upgraded classic t-shirt to the hoodie. It's quite possible that this episode has come out right on time. Let's say it comes out on Halloween and you have this much time.
Spooky.
So spooky. Like you don't have to wait for the premiere. We just drop it like we have been.
Like it's hot, some might say.
To your benefit, if we do end up dropping this, and we probably will, you may be able to take advantage of this new membership sign-on bonus in time. If you want to read more about that, I just posted an update on Ko-fi and Patreon. You can head over there now. It's either the latest post or the second to latest post. Interestingly enough, when I reminded folks on Sunday, a handful of people at least followed, and one person, whom I will call Maggie for the interest of privacy, joined a trial on Patreon, then subsequently joined the membership on Ko-fi, canceled the trial on Patreon. It was very misguided, but it was very, very nice to see in a very, very busy Sunday.
Figured out it was going to be cheaper.
And she's right, because Patreon has a markup. Either way, I really do hope you do not miss out on this opportunity, mostly because I like you. I like our audience. I like the folks who take the time to listen to us. And Lord knows you have so many better things to do with your time. The fact that we make the cut means a lot. What we hope is that you like it enough to be able to keep us going. That's really the core of this. We do need your support. We don't like pushing. All these years, what have I been doing, Bridget, when we talk about Ko-fi and Patreon? Rather than the memberships, rather than the tips, the main thing that you yelled at me for, by the way.
Just follow. You don't have to do anything. Just follow us. Just do the free thing. Don't worry about giving us money. We don't like money. I burn money. I'm too good for money. That's my impression of Dave.
This one particular time, we ended the episode, and all of a sudden, Rachel's in the audience right now, so as my witness, so I'm about to call her out too. You both, in tandem, went like, Dave, why do you keep pushing follows? Dave, you're so nice. You're too nice. Starts yelling at me. What do you want me to read your mind, Bridget?
I don't know why. Sometimes when Ray and I are together, we do like to really gang up on you. It's more fun.
I love what it was that you're ganging up on me on.
I don't know why.
It was, like, Dave, you're too nice.
Stand up for yourself, Dave. Stand up for yourself.
It's exactly like when I was saying, I'm cuddling. This is the pre-show for one of our episodes that we started including the teaser of, but it made the cut. And it was, you're cuddling your sweetie. Ew, what is that? And then I go, I'm adoring her. And you're like, that's fair. It's fair. Man up, you P word. Rachel says accurate for bullying me, and she says it's like picking on our little older brother, which is weird. Outside of Charity, I'm like the older brother. Actually, I am the older brother.
You are.
She's the older sister.
Charity's not my older brother.
Yeah. Oh, that makes more sense. She says, excuse me, smaller older brother. This episode is called Scar Tissue, and the formula of deconstructing the title, I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah,
it's not the best, but it beats going, first impressions, what do you think? Waste 40 minutes.
Fine, I guess.
But scar tissue, well, there's the obvious
Mhm.
scar tissue, which is Randall. Right?
Obviously.
But then there's the not so obvious.
There's Tien Chen's death. For Kenny, the fact that Tabitha left and Jim had to stay behind, the fact that they were going to get a divorce, there's the scar tissue left behind by whatever happened to Marielle, Randall, and Julie, despite Marielle pretending that it didn't happen.
Well, they're all handling it differently, too.
Yeah. And then there's the new issue of the baby not existing, which is concerning. And so then what's that all about?
Cannot wait to talk about that. It gets dark, folks.
I know. And then there's Victor and his dad finding out that he was there alone for a long time. Donna dealing with Dale's death. Rachel just said that as I said that. Scar tissue is a physical reminder of something painful. I thought of Dale behind the brick wall and, of course, Randall's face.
And Dale kind of looks like scar tissue healed over or something because being merged into the wall like that.
Pretty gnarly. Hearing Victor tell the story about Mrs. Davis. That's just a snippet of a character we don't even know. But what a horrific thing to happen.
Micro story.
Oh, it just goes to show how much pain there is in this place. It's like the place itself is scar tissue. And maybe that's why it's hard to get out.
Ugh.
Because scar tissue is tougher than normal skin. That's the thing. Rachel said, I do love how Victor remembers all these people like they're still around. It's a nice memorial to the people who have come before, are his memories.
Right. Because the way you honor people is by remembering them when they're gone. And he does that for all the people in the town.
Yeah.
It is really cool. It made me actually think of how Victor draws things that he dreams of, people he sees, things he sees in order to remember. But really, it strikes me as interesting how sharp his memory is when he wants to remember or when it's easy to remember. It's like a not traumatic thing, but the traumatic things are the things he draws.
It's a natural response to block it. So it was smart of him to draw things as a kid, not knowing repressed memories would be a trauma response. Not everybody represses memories. That's the other thing.
Right. Yeah. But that it's so horrible that he has to, but he also has the wherewithal to record it in case it's important.
Yeah.
When you're a kid, I'll speak for myself. I feel like everything that I saw and watched was important enough to remember in intricacy. Maps of things and stuff like that.
Well, the things that are important to you are easy to remember. So if it was interesting or you liked learning about it, then you're more inclined to remember those things.
Or if that thing had meaning for you, you might want to remember, but sometimes you'll buy a Legend of Zelda map guide to make sure you don't forget, is what I'm saying.
Sure, that's fair. That's fair.
I may need this later. You didn't. You memorized the whole map from the original Legend of Zelda. It's still in your head. 45 years, not 45 years later.
It was important to you.
Almost 40 years later. The talking about the scar tissue really does run throughout the episode. And it touches on Victor. And Victor talking about Mrs. Davis was a weird thing because it instantly reminded me, and tell me if you feel the same, that the story about Mrs. Davis was a hell of a lot similar to Randall's story. Both of them bought presents for a younger child.
It is. Now, his nephew wasn't dying.
Well, we don't know that.
Well,
it was for a birthday party. But
it was for a birthday party.
We don't know.
I feel like that would have really been bearing the lead. I don't know that he was super in touch with his family. Maybe he was on the rocks for them. It felt like it was significant for him. But it could be that, I don't know, he strikes me somewhat as though he served in the military. I don't know why. Something about the way he carries himself, but maybe I'm wrong.
You mean his shaved head?
It's like the haircut, the gun. I don't know. Something about it. It could just be kind of a redneck, which is fine too. I say that lovingly as a member of a redneck family.
Yeah.
I don't say that
you can say it because you are one.
Travis does often tell me, you are probably more white trash than my family or me ever has been. You're far more country. And I'm like, that's so weird. How? But it's true. Anyway, I grew up with a second refrigerator outside in the garage. Need I say more? Also a second couch, also in the garage. I'm sorry, it wasn't a garage. It was a carport.
Oh, wow. You're hitting on all these things.
Yeah.
Just
okay.
Incrementally.
Anyway. That's normal in the Midwest, Rachel said. I know it was not normal in the South to have a second refrigerator outside. Anyway, we also had a piano out there. It was just chock full of junk. That's where I learned to play piano, was in the carport, as one does. I taught myself with an old book from the 1940s or something.
You did? Oh.
Yeah.
Well, and you mentioned the piano lessons at school.
Yeah, I can't play anymore, but yeah.
I can still play. It comes back to me. I've written songs on piano, my own songs.
It was only for like a
They're not
2-year
bad.
stint that I played, so it wasn't consistently. It's like the violin or the guitar or any other musical instrument I tried. I wasn't instantly good at it, so I just stopped doing it because that's the kind of person I am.
Bridget is flighty.
Anyway.
Well, let me just backtrack a bit because both Randall and Mrs. Davis bought presents for younger children-ish things, all right? Because Randall strikes me as somebody who wouldn't share that detail because he's kind of cagey.
He probably wouldn't. That's why I was also
They're
like,
not worth it.
maybe he's coming back home from serving. I don't know. That's the thing. He's not going to tell us.
And I know, which is why I don't want to comment on that, but it would strike me as something that he wouldn't include because he's not that kind of, he's like, you don't need to know about me. I don't want to tell you about me. Whatever.
Yeah,
I didn't care about that. What I did care about was Victor kind of assumes, I guess he's dead now too. But then I thought to myself, what if he lived and the person that lived was Randall? So it's Randall Davis. There's a concerted effort to...
Oh, goodness,
well, okay.
Dave.
The moon is not wearing pants. There is a weird matching of the people who happen to come into town, too. Because you're starting to notice a pattern with the kinds of people who come into town from before.
Sure. I will give you that.
Like this person's a typical that, or this person's a typical that. Boyd's the sheriff. Donna's the caretaker, let's say, of people. Tien Chan is the mother figure. Everybody seems to embody an archetype.
Sure.
If things tend to repeat in this community, then, well, he doesn't have to be Mrs. Davis's child.
Okay.
But wouldn't it be cool if it was?
I don't know if cool is the right word. Sounds pretty horrible, actually.
For us in the safety, it's a fictional show. Yeah, it's great. Suffer for our enjoyment.
No.
We are. Anyway, sorry. Rachel says, I don't know if the math works out, but he's been there for 40 years. So
that's true. Who knows? God only knows when Mrs. Davis was there. We have no idea. The purpose that I thought that served was just to give you that little piece of another person's story. Victor has done this several times where he's fed us these tiny pieces of other people's stories. And I think it's really great writing because they've been fairly impactful. Oh, that person, and he was nice until he wasn't. He's kind of given us a little bit of these pieces about people. It does not move the story forward, but it does build the story, if that makes sense. Because it gives you character development. It gives the story color. Characters you don't know, but it adds to the character development, I guess, of the setting. If you treat this place as like its own character, which essentially it is, it fleshes that out.
And if you think about it, it gives it dimension, is kind of what you're saying, because you're in the same setting. We keep visiting the same set pieces on the show. Sometimes you have to give the words to give shape to other people who've been here that you can't quite show unless you just do it. But that kind of takes away from the people that are here. So you have to make decisions, basically.
Yeah.
Listen, like anything, when we break down other shows, and you know, when you start examining writing, as long as we have, or at least as long as I have, you start having to look at narrative parallels and seeing, well, why this? Why are the words to this scene or the dialogue to the scene? Why is it written this way? Why give them a name? Sometimes you have to take a leap and go, are they establishing a precedent here or a pattern? Well, kind of like Jade in the tree. So sometimes you have to kind of hold that in your pocket and go, well, if this story mirrors that story, then what does that mean? Is it archetypes repeating themselves, types of people who come into town, or is it something else? And that the kinds of people that come into town repeat themselves, kind of like Bacta. Do you think that has
something to do with the numbers? Is this where you're like trying to go with this?
Could, which is why the numbers repeat. Because what I said last time was that the numbers represent specific people, and there's a finite amount of people in this town, even though some numbers repeat, which is a new bit of information that we got in this episode. The 2s and the 7s are backwards. That's another thing that we got in this episode that we didn't get before.
Yes, correct. Not every 2 and 7, though.
Right, not every, just specific ones, right. There's not much we can do to go much deeper on that point, but it's good to keep in the back of our minds. Look out for Chekhov's gun. It's a possibility. It's not often that when you write something, it means nothing, is all I'm saying. And especially on a show like this.
Yeah.
I hate saying this because the instinct is to say everything means something.
And then you sound like Jade.
That's exactly it. Because it could mean nothing, which is infuriating.
Yeah, I know.
Like Jade.
I know.
Because it reminded me of what you said to me.
What? What did I say?
Just enjoy the ride. I'm like, it's hard.
Yeah. We saw the first bottle tree with Boyd, I thought. And then we see Jim at the bottle tree. So in my head, I assumed that they were the same tree. But I remember at the time thinking, that's weird. I didn't think that one was a faraway tree. I thought it was skinnier. So when all of a sudden it was a faraway tree, I was like, that's weird, but okay, maybe I missed something. Maybe I forgot. I had the realization this episode as well. Boy's like, what about the second tree? And he's like, what, the one that Miranda made? And I was like, obviously, why didn't you guys check that one? And then he's like, no, the other one in the woods. And I was like, ah!
And we all kind of did it. What do you mean, what other one? We missed the one first. It wasn't a faraway tree. We thought it was a faraway tree.
Yeah.
Right. But that's the one we happened to see first. We see the real quote unquote bottle tree second. And it's the one that Victor points out that goes to the lighthouse. But so then we can't get it out of our heads that there's a second. But well, the question you always have to ask is, what did we miss? Even though we just had the rug swiped up from underneath us, because we're too busy being like, oh, there are two trees, to realize this isn't a precedent. Not at all.
There's two trees in the real world also that we know of. Is Jade onto something with this dimensional rift thing? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. We don't understand black holes and we don't understand dimensional rifts. So it's not like, finally, it makes sense. No, this is still beyond human comprehension right now. So,
but it feels like
you're making progress. You're not. It's false. It's false progress.
No. If it feels like you're making progress, you are. But if you sound like you're making progress, you definitely aren't. The rug's going to be pulled up from underneath you. You said there are two bottle trees in the real world. Just to make it clear, the skinny tree outside of the Kavanaugh home.
And then the other one, we don't know what it looks like.
We don't. But if we're to kind of compare apples to apples, it's possible that the faraway tree, bottle tree, is the one that maybe feels like took Miranda to the stock place. Possibly. Maybe. I don't know. But is the one that you go into and you go somewhere, is what I'm saying. If we're to go to show logic, not physics logic.
We don't know, Dave. I'm not willing to even comment on that. We don't know. We know so little.
Grow some balls and
no, I will
make
not.
a judgment.
I will
Tell
not.
me what you feel. All right, straight man. I'll be the wacky color commentary.
You are. In this show, you're ancient aliens. Despite my just love
of conspiracy theories.
Yeah, I love conspiracy theories. More than the normal human should. I really love that Ethan was brought in to help solve this puzzle with Jade. And I know that it's out of desperation for Tabitha. She's feeling like she's going crazy, like she hasn't done enough. She's just kind of at the brink of frustration. She gets really freaked out, and then her son has to pull her out of this like weird psychotic break thing that she's having with these hallucinations that maybe aren't hallucinations with the Angui kids, which is like, I knew she didn't save them because going into a lighthouse could not have done it.
Because he didn't see the body also.
But I think it's nice to have Ethan work on it because he maybe has a perspective that other people just don't have. Even he already caught things that Jade had missed. And Jade is a genius, arguably.
It's a faraway tree.
And yet this kid can just walk in and he's like, well, this is just how it is. It has to do with that concept of this world has specific rules. And Ethan is young enough that maybe he can just catch on to those rules. It's the same reason that Victor is able to kind of know where to go to look for Jasper. He knows the rules of this place because he's been here so long and he was a kid when he started. He doesn't have the real world to really compare it to. So the only rules he knows are the rules of this world.
Yeah, there's less of him to break or less of his reality to break because he's still absorbing things like a sponge.
Yeah.
He can accept the rules of this place and not compare it to the rules of his own place because he still has that make-believe head.
Yes. So it was cool to see him like step in and instantaneous is like, why are these numbers backwards? And Jade's like, oh, okay.
He almost dismisses it too.
Yeah. He's like, yeah. Oh, wait. Wait, what?
Isn't that a thing?
Couldn't that be like a really big clue, dude? Are you like looking for clues right now? So I'm excited to see kind of where that goes and if Ethan will play a bigger part in kind of being a hero.
Wouldn't that be nice? We haven't heard the name the Chromonocle in a while. Maybe people got sick of hearing it. I don't know.
Maybe. I kind of thought it was nice. Or maybe
he's just trying to step into the story like Victor is.
Yeah, I thought it was nice, but I get you're becoming jaded by the place that's stealing your innocence.
Which is why he was trying to learn about the insides of things and where do we go when we die? Do you think Tien Shan is with her husband? Yeah. But working on this puzzle kind of brings him back to the way he was a little bit, outside of all the crazy. When Jade is facing the wall as Tabitha comes in, doesn't know that Ethan's there. He's about to shoo Tabitha away because he's busy. He's an important man that made a multi-million-dollar company. He's getting serious. And then he sees Ethan and his whole demeanor changes. Partially, I think it's what you're saying is that he sees Ethan and it's like maybe he has a perspective that I just can't have, or I don't have, or I'm not able to have.
I don't know if it's that. He has like a soft spot for Ethan. It's a really genuine way for someone who really shoots from the hip and doesn't really worry about being around kids and like what he's supposed to say. This is like his genuine way of trying to connect with this kid.
Right. Because you have to remember was the last episode, I think it was, he's just swearing. He's like saying the F word twice.
And he kept saying, he's like, sorry.
Sorry. Why does he change his demeanor this time? It's not important.
I think he was just trying to help Tabitha.
You have to remember what happened at the top of the show, which is it was said that they were screaming in the middle of the night, shrieking like the like the monsters in this town, enough for it to go all the way to Colony House. I think he heard them arguing, and I think he feels really bad for Ethan as well.
Sure, that makes sense.
He doesn't need a ranting Jade right now. He needs kind of like the uncle figure to kind of get his mind off of this screaming parent match thing too. It kind of occurred to me that he sees Tabitha, he sees Ethan, and he's like, maybe I better sober up, as Ghost Tom says, cleaning his dumb glass.
Dead Tom.
Because, okay, I warmed up to Tom and his sort of pseudo-philosophical contrarian attitude. I warmed up to him, but all of a sudden in this episode, it turned for me. Because I liked Tom when we first met him. He had this philosophical way about him.
You're rewriting history, Dave. You didn't care about Tom at all. You were like, that guy's fine, I guess.
Okay.
I think it's because you like to bring up this stuff. So I think you hate...
That's exactly it. Tom is writing on my territory. I did warm up to him, especially when he died.
Wow. I liked him when he was dead.
Oh no, am I turning into Rachel? I like all the philosophical guys, but only after they're not a threat anymore. But I warmed up to him. I was like, okay, he's no longer a threat. Anything he says right now is important information now. Now I can listen, I can absorb and listen to it.
Oh my gosh.
However, in this episode, he was being so super contrarian. He's the guy that just keeps saying obvious things about you that you don't want to be reminded of, listing facts about you. A bartender is supposed to listen, not tell you all the things that are not wrong about you, not necessarily, but it's just observations. And sometimes people don't want to have these observations rattled out loud in front of their face because not all of them are good and not all of them are bad. You know, when somebody tries to do psychology on you, like I do all the time, Tom?
Yeah.
It is annoying, even if it's informative. And so I was annoyed just like Jade was. And Jade is visibly upset.
My favorite part is when he starts laughing. He's like, why are you cleaning that glass? Because it's like, you're dead and the glass doesn't exist. Fair.
What's crazier is his response.
A man's got to do what a man's got to do is basically what he said. What?
I'm like this close to swearing because Tom will suddenly find a way to come back to life. And then what will I do?
I don't know.
Crazy eyes.
Normally, something they say rubs me the wrong way enough for me to be like, that doesn't seem right. It seems like this is something evil. But
no, this is exactly like Father Fatri.
This was truly what Jade needed to hear. Dude, you have done so many things in your life. You created a company out of nothing, even though everyone told you not to. You stood up for yourself. You came into this place talking about how, like, I am essentially a billionaire and I know what I'm doing and I can figure this out. And he's falling apart. He did need to hear that. Sober up. Get it together. You're better than this.
Heard, as they say. After all the observations were done, he finally says the useful information.
Yes.
How does that make him any different than Father Fatri, fake Father Fatri, dead Father Fatri? It's the same GD thing. I can say goddamn, but I feel like saying GD because Father Fatri. It's the same thing.
That's fair.
Because he says things that motivate Boyd eventually. after giving him a heaping tablespoonful of S. Then he gives him some hopefully useful information that sounds useful at least. But all the while, just like Father Fatri, Tom, I get the sense, just like Abby, just like Father Fatri, just like fake Tom, he says the thing with useful information or to motivate him to do something. But I think underneath it all, it is just to get him in the way of finding out more about the things. Don't you get that sense?
I don't know how to feel about this because when Abby talked to Boyd, it seemed so menacing.
Well, because of the setting and the music.
It was
and
menacing. I don't know. It was menacing. And same thing with Father Kotri. Some of the stuff he said has been more menacing than anything else. Whereas Tom's haven't been the same way.
But you have to kind of see it from Jade's point of view. To hear that maybe the person that made the tree is just effing with you, which is essentially what he says. It's not literally what he says, but it's really
like the worst thing for Jade to hear.
Okay. And then he says something that completely boggles my mind to the effect of nature has a design, but we know that entropy is a thing. Entropy is our way of saying that nature has an order to it, but really it's chaos theory. Nature do what it's going to do. Humankind tends to make order of things, and this is clearly man-made, so by default, it has more order than nature.
True.
Because we are of nature, and we're rational beings based on emotional hardware.
Yeah, it's more about the fact that we look for patterns and things, even if they don't have a pattern.
We're
That's
pattern
a human
recognition
trait.
machines,
Yeah.
By the way, the very definition of intelligence is categorization and concatenation. It's our labeling system. We have to put labels on things in order to define them. It's our way of stacking information in a way that's easily readable. And part of that is pattern recognition. But this goes to my point. If nature has an order that's mysterious, just like this damn place, and we are of nature and we're pattern recognition machines that have intelligence, which is a labeling system, which makes even more order out of things. By default, what Tom says makes me absolutely infuriated because he's effing with Jade. He's just getting him to not see this as something that has order, something that is important.
So he is doing the same thing that everybody else is doing, prodding and poking and trying to get you to not do the thing that you're on the track of doing.
That's what I'm saying. Father Fatri, Fam, and Fabby.
Okay.
They're both Effies. F is not just for fake, it's for effers.
Rachel says that Dead Tom isn't real and it's all a projection of Jade's own mind.
Ugh, I hate that response. Don't you hate that? Don't you?
Dave just went on his whole tangent. I'm just kidding around, really.
How did this place change me, by the way? I'm just going to say this out loud. How did this place change me to being mean to Rachel? I love her so much.
This is Bizarro World. Travis and I were watching a commercial the other day, and there was a guy on it named Elad, and I died. It was ELAD, and I was like, that can't be real.
Hold on. It's the acorn or something?
Yes.
Something to that effect?
Yes.
His name is Elad. But anyway,
I don't care.
Israeli,
it's Elad.
But now it's Elad.
I don't care. It's Elad as far as I'm concerned. Elad, you're
Israeli,
here.
Dale? Also young, not older.
No, not old at all.
Slag Cliff Saunders, but you are older. Sorry. So you're conceding that just like Father Fatri, just like Fabby.
I'll let you have this one. I'm just kidding.
We'll go here
I get it.
And no further because like you said, we don't really know their motivations. This is like the phone calls and the radio. What I'll leave you with is Jade has a way of saying what we're all thinking, but it seems to be more important than it actually is. He says,
there's a nicer way to make your point, you know?
Which is not only true in what we're all feeling, but it's this place.
Yeah.
They give you information that sounds threatening, but is really just information.
It's so weird. Yeah, it's so weird.
Yeah. Bartender Fam cleaning that damn glass annoyingly like a man do.
So funny.
Yeah, it is funny though, objectively.
It was so funny. I mean, Jade can't even get through the sentence without laughing because it's so ridiculous.
Oh, I feel like he turned it up a notch, the actor who plays Tom. Yeah. And so there is a bit of a breaking of character that he just kind of leans into.
I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
Bridget, when you were saying how, are we just trying to avoid this episode?
There's things he's trying to avoid. I knew it.
The thing that really got me is we jump into this episode in a rather triggering fashion. Do you remember just only 2 episodes ago when Tabby comes back? We come into the series, we're about to get divorced, it's our last hurrah. You come into the stuck place and you start to get together. We're digging in the basement, we're doing dumb things that the radio guy says, you're doing a dumb thing, don't do it. And then she comes back, they're kissing, and then all of a sudden you see in the last episode, the one just prior, that the cracks are forming. It's like, wait, we just got together and things are moving incredibly in the other way. And then we have this blowout right at the top of the show, which shows us, like you said, in the Mrs. Davis context, it's that other slice of life that we didn't get to see. We heard about it, the divorce. Well, this is what it must have looked like when they lost Thomas and they were trying to hold it together and they reached a breaking point where they just couldn't go on. And this is a piece of that. But what triggered me on a personal level was just how it just brought me back to some of my own issues and how fingers were pointed in faces and faces were making twisted mouth things. And it was a lot. It was just a lot. Even Jim reacting to the thing was triggering.
I cannot remember the actor's name, but props
Ian Bailey
to the level of authenticity from this performance, because the like, I'm going to go to bed. And then the frustrated throwing of the covers, but like can't quite do it. Like, and they were both doing that thing where they stumbled over their words or would like mispronounce the word at the end because you're like so worked up and you're so angry. And there was a lot of that. And I'm so glad that they didn't retape that to like get it perfect, because that's genuine. When your thoughts are flying through your head and you're just trying to get your thoughts out as quickly as you can, and you're so heated, you're going to say the wrong word or like flub it a little bit, but you're angry. So you're not going to acknowledge that you flubbed it. You're just going to pretend like nothing happened and keep moving on because you're mad and you're fighting about it. The performances out of both of them in that scene were really great, but he especially, that moment where he jumps back out of bed, something about that was so authentic, that level of anger and frustration.
Like how he almost kind of tripped on himself.
Yes. And like the blankets got stuck and like, it was just really genuine. I am very blessed to have a marriage that doesn't have a ton of fighting, but I grew up in a household that had a whole mess of fighting.
Well, my abusive relationship had a lot of that.
Well, that too.
Frequently.
That too.
Frequently.
Yes, that too.
Enough to kind of make me relive it.
Yeah. Theirs felt so genuine. I didn't really compare it to my own domestic violence situation because that was always so much gaslighting.
That hint of manipulation.
Yeah, there was just like always manipulation. This had 2 perspectives. They're both true. They're not trying to manipulate the other person by saying, no, you're telling the wrong story. That's not what happened. She's saying, right, you weren't there. You got to go to work. I didn't get to go to work. He even acknowledges
it too.
I had to be at home. I had to see our kids crying over their brother being gone. And so I'm so sorry that you were left with the children for like a week. How horrible for you. I don't know how long she was gone really, but it couldn't have been that long.
Which isn't the point. There is still a part of her that feels guilty about it, but she can't waste time thinking, okay, that's interesting because in moving past the emotion of this scene, a truth is revealed. In their fighting, it's almost as though she snaps out of that feeling of feeling like she wanted to do more. Mm-hmm. Do you get what I'm saying when I say that?
Yeah.
It's almost as if them fighting makes her completely forget about this thing she was just worrying about. So
yeah, the anger like pulls her out of it. It
helps her.
Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't that weird?
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of noticed that. In effect, their fight saved her from this feeling she had. And yeah, she still carries it, but it's not as heavy.
Though, when you're going through some traumatic stuff, the weird little arguments will pull you out because all of a sudden you're fired up about something completely stupid, but distracts you from what you should probably actually be dealing with.
Right. Rather than getting stuck and dwelling on the things you could have done. Right. Which is what we all do, which is important to point out, but that not all fighting is bad because their fights originally were about something they had no control over.
Yes.
Whereas Tabitha's feelings come from a place where maybe she had some control over it, but she didn't feel like she did. She could have done more.
Yeah.
But she made decisions and she has to stick by them. I get that.
I hate that the whole town made her feel that way, though, because it's simply not true.
Right.
We all know it to be not true. We are here in this world. You know what? I'll give you a real life example.
When do we not?
I love to give real life examples. I love talking about myself. My ex, when I'm talking about ex, I'm talking about Punchy McGee. That's not his Christian name.
It's his baptism name. I don't know why I said that. Can you imagine the priest saying, it says here, Punchy
McGee?
McGee's your middle name? What is happening here? Who are your parents? Bring them up here.
In his last moments of trying to like manipulate me into staying with him, I was on my way out. 2 minutes from calling the police and getting the restraining order and all of that. He said that he could time travel. Yep. Just brace yourself for this. I know Rachel just says, wow, just wow. He said he could time travel and that if I left him, I would die. I don't know what's more annoying. I did die?
That he was almost right? Like when you... Sorry.
Frustrating
but
to say the least.
No, it's like a lost thing. You did die.
I did die.
But then you came back to life.
I don't know. It's crazy. It's totally wild. Anyway, it's an
Bridget,
insane
it's like
story.
when I'm right about something and you hate it.
I do hate it.
And you're like, no, you're wrong. And then it ends up being right. You're like, I still don't acknowledge it, even though they said it in the next episode.
This is a wild manipulation.
No, it's totally wild.
And I'm just crazy. Like, okay. And he's like, you don't believe me? And I'm like, no, I believe you. No, I don't. That's insane. And he kept on with this through the leaving, through the restraining order hearing, to the very end when he utters the words, as I'm leaving the courtroom with a bailiff to go to my car under his breath because he keeps getting yelled at by the judge. It's okay. I let you go. You're going to be safe now. As though he still had control over. Anyway, if someone came up to you and said this stuff, you'd be like, you're insane. Because literally, that's what I thought. I was like, how did I stay with this guy for so long? He's clearly crazy.
By the way, now that we've been watching this show, and I've heard the story before, now I'm starting to think that he might be right. Maybe he had to get you to the point, and then he said, okay, you're being all right now. You're going to die still, but you'll be all right.
Trust me, Dave, trust me, that has crossed my mind because, conspiracy theorist.
No, Bridget, I am joking. There's a thing called joking, which is what I'm doing now. He employed a tactic that all mentalists do. It's like the broken clock is right twice a day sort of thing. He said something and it happened to be the thing.
Monkeys will type Shakespeare eventually. But someone tells you something like time travel's nuts. That is out of this world. Someone tells you I am stuck in a dimensional rift and I cannot get out because I'm in the tall grass.
Same thing.
You're going to be like, you're nuts. Now, Rachel said in the context of the show, she can get some proof, though.
Or she could have.
Didn't you, Bridget, suggest just Google searching some of the people stuck in the town? I did. I wish that we had Googled anybody other than ourselves, anybody who had died in the town, so we could just find out. Yeah, it drives me insane, but it is what it is.
If only the moon wore pants.
It is what it is. I get the townspeople being upset, but telling her that you should have told someone makes no sense. So you're telling me you're going to be in a hospital where you don't know the state, you don't know the laws. Could they commit you against your will? Maybe.
I was the first one to say that. Most of you were annoyed. Let's use an example from this episode because Henry's obviously looking at what Victor had to go through, regaling him with the story. I was alone for all these years and this box struck for when things got loud or noisy is what he said. And he feels bad for him. But at the same time, he realizes that they risked impending death for a ventriloquist dummy. And then it turns as if you didn't already have an example of what Tabitha might have gone through when Officer Acosta chains her up to the ambulance. That's what would have happened if she started saying things in the real world. She did do that. She chained her to the ambulance saying, I'm just going to lock you up for your own good. And even you giving your example, by the way, Bridget, I had said this in the premiere for that episode. I mean, I did a snap premiere for that episode. And I said in that premiere, she was too busy trying to convince Henry. She needed to give proof that she was missing to Henry. She was so busy trying to get him on board until she finally said the thing that was spooky for him that happened to connect her to Miranda. And it had to be personal to him.
the people are like, well, you didn't tell anybody. And he stands up and says, she told me and I didn't believe her.
It was so busy.
And Donna's like, shut up, Henry.
Shut up, old man. Why is everybody so mean to Henry?
And I don't know.
Just got here. Be nicer.
And then Acosta's like, to be fair, we thought she was crazy. And they're like, shut up, you shot somebody. And it's like,
shut up, you murderer.
So there's two people literally who are here that are telling you what happened when she told them. And you're like, no, not good enough.
I feel like me sometimes telling you things that make sense, but you're like, no, she could have done this. I'm like, no, she couldn't have done. Let me explain why. Guys, everybody calm down. Jeez. Stop being mean to me like you are to Henry and Officer Murderer Acosta.
I'll never calm down.
I'm just trying to make it about me. I'm a time travel, Bridget. Sorry.
It is cuckoo bananas.
You can laugh about it now.
Oh, yeah, of course
it's
I can.
It's a podcast. But if we fight about it, it'll make you forget about it. It's fine. Like Tabitha and Jim. We'll just bring it back to that.
Yeah.
No, I just wanted to touch on that because, like you said, it was authentic enough in their mannerisms while the whole Ian Bailey really just pointing in her face and her slapping away his pointy finger. Can you imagine? They were workshopping that. They were like, wait, what can we do to amp this thing up? And she goes, yeah, point your finger in my face and I'm going to slap it away really hard to make a sound. It does give me goosebumps when you start peeling back the layers of, oh, this is acting. Because at the time I was really, I'm using the word triggered. It triggered me.
It's tough to watch because it was so realistic, which then in turn made it that much more compelling to me. I want to watch these two on screen again. I want to see more of this. This is acting.
Oh, okay. Yes. This is another thing that made me think of Randall and Mrs. Davis.
Okay.
It's Randall's scar. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like this weird, curvy, twisted smile. The way Victor puts it is that Mrs. Davis wanted to just get her son something that would make him smile because he was suffering. And then Randall now has a permanent smile, even though he's one of the least prone to smiling on this show. There's an irony in that.
I have a question for you about Randall. Do you think that Randall is up to something?
No. I think there is so much authenticity going on in this episode, by the way. And Randall is one of them.
Here is my fear. He did something he doesn't normally do. I did say that I'm worried that they sent him back to do something for them. Maybe they promised him he could get out if he did it or whatever. I would never take it as the truth. Same thing with what's happening with Elgin, which we'll get to in a minute. But I wouldn't trust a single entity out of this place to help me get out.
Oh, talking about the kimono lady.
So far, we've been proven that it doesn't really work. The only time it did happen was the little boy in white pushed her out. Didn't even ask.
Right.
Didn't say, do this weird thing for me and then I'll let you out. Like Sarah
did say it was the only way before
Sarah was told to kill Ethan in order to get out. He opens up to Marielle in a way that he doesn't really open up to anybody. And he says that he's scared. Makes sense. And to me, that felt like emotional manipulation. I'm a little bit wary of this. Like he was trying to get an invitation to stay there.
Well, to give you a little bit more chum, because he's clearly not sleeping. When Boyd tells him to stay in the post office / sheriff station when he's hunting for monsters, he doesn't do it. He stays on the bus. He does not like accepting the kindness of strangers because he doesn't trust it.
Yes, correct. So what's the deal with this?
On the other side of that, Marielle, for all her trying to not show that she's been affected by this thing that Randall, Julie, and she share, he can't escape the fact that they did share it. He sees the truth. And even if she's putting on the bravest face of the three, he still understands from her face that she does acknowledge that it happened. And in that, they share something that they cannot deny. Bridget, it's a trauma bond because he hates her because he can't do it. It's not that he wants to be like Marielle because he doesn't care either way, but he just can't stand the fact that he can't pretend. He's not the kind of person that pretends. He's kind of like Donna. That's why they're like oil and oil, Donna and he. And so that's not in his nature, but he certainly appreciates the fact that they shared a trauma together, something that is beyond trauma. And so when she offers him a place to stay, he has every reason to kind of trust the fact that we've been through something that nobody else on this planet probably ever has, in that you're just trying to get by too. I'm just faking it till I make it. You can't, so I'm going to pull you up. Moving beyond the mistrustful nature that you may have for Randall, didn't part of you light up a little bit that there was a touching moment here
between him and Marielle?
A little bit, or relent? Were you too caught up in the...
You know what I was caught up...
Weasley.
No, you know what I was caught up by? It wasn't even Randall.
Is Marielle.
B. You work in the medical field. Why are your stringy bangs out? Put them away.
And Rachel says, yeah, ew.
It drives me insane.
I'm moving on very quickly from this. It's not the thing I would look for, but okay. I'll give it to you. Other people are going to agree with you that know this thing. Remember when you guys said how it wasn't this episode, it was, I think it might have even been season 2 when Marielle was first meeting up with Fatima, I think it was, and Ellis is cagey. He's like, I don't know, you're the drug lady who also was in the scary place with the dungeon. And they're like, but you're scary. You guys had said something about, I forget what it was, but I noticed that this episode, what happens when Kenny is coming in to get the last of the ambulance equipment? What is she doing? That just completely made me pause for a hot sec.
Why all of a sudden do we revert back to just trusting her? We said that. Rachel and I were talking about that in that episode. We're like, why all of a sudden did you just regain all the trust in the world just because you went through something hard? Get over yourself. We all go through hard things. We're in a horrible place.
Hold on. Whoa. Okay, you went too far. I didn't go far enough.
Roll it back. I didn't go far enough.
Roll it back. All I'm talking about is where in the last season, you let her near the pharmaceutical cabinet and it's like, give me all the drugs. But in this episode, she's very clinical. I mean, albeit,
I know,
but
it's
she's
weird.
fully trusted to be around the drugs.
Weird. It's super, super weird. From a writing perspective, it doesn't make a ton of sense.
Oh, no. It makes complete sense because you're too busy mistrusting Randall to realize that Marielle looks okay. She's almost a completely different person.
She's probably medicating.
Do you think?
Assuming.
I was thinking she is not the same person. She's not she.
Oh, like she's been taken over by something else?
Yeah, because you're too busy distracted by Randall.
All right, Dave.
Much in the way that there's a Father Fatri and bartender Fom and Fabby Stevens. Who's to say that Marielle actually survived? That's all I'm saying. I'm not committed. What I did notice is that Randall puts a finger on it. You're too busy being suspicious over Randall. Why are you completely and utterly okay and that people trust you with the medicine cabinet? You seem to have it all together even more than Christy to a certain extent.
Yeah, no, she does.
And I'll even go this far. She seems to be the new Christy. Much in the way there are certain people that are taking on certain roles. I'm going to touch on it, then we can just go move on to something else. But Elgin himself seems to be like the new Donna. He's starting to lean into the colony house life. He's making collages.
I don't think so. I don't see
just
that.
Just like Donna gave Fatima this present, this wreath garland thing for her 1 year anniversary. Like Donna, that's Donna. That's like an example of a Donna. Wants to give people joy, wants to make people feel like, hey, this isn't the end of things. There could be beauty here. So you can trade hands with the Fatima and Donna, but like he seems to be leaning into this world. Whereas Donna, we've been saying this for several episodes, Donna's losing it. Boyd's losing it. Kenny seems to be sort of rising to the occasion, has a little bit of Boyd, has a little bit of like, okay, I'm leaning into, I have nobody left. I might as well be the new Boyd. I'm not saying that completely, but I'm just noticing that there's a concerted role replacement by certain characters of other characters.
I'm not willing to sign on to that yet.
I'm just paying attention. I'm not committed. I agree with you. I'm just saying that I'm just keeping my eyes peeled.
So I want to go back to Marielle for just a second because Rachel said multiple people are seeing her, which is true. And she's being participatory in active things like the ultrasound. Right. Because she brings in the gel and everything. But here's my thing.
She's a ghost or a vision.
I wanted to clarify that. You're saying that something is possessed, like running her body. Something else is inside of her.
It looks or feels like it is. It just doesn't feel like it's her. I'm not saying something else is inside her. I'm not willing to go that far. You've conditioned me to not see the moon that's wearing pants. I'm willing to say this far. Just saying the words, and Randall says it too. You don't seem like you. Why are you not acknowledging the thing that happened? Did you have a psychotic break and completely are just not acknowledging it? Or is it not even you, basically?
I assume she was back to her old antics. That was just my personal opinion. Christy was so thankful to get her back. She was willing to forget all of the bad things that had happened.
Yep.
That is some unhealthy behavior.
And who's replacing Christy?
When you're a drug addict, that doesn't go away. Addict. You cannot do it by yourself. You cannot just pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Just like sheer force of will. She's not going to do it anymore. That's like,
no, you have to be constantly vigilant.
That was the one thing that really bothered me is like, you know this about her and you're just letting her do whatever she wants. She's just running the clinic.
Mm-hmm. Again, characters replacing other characters.
Rachel said, I think it's more likely she's back on drugs, but hiding it better this time, which is what I think is happening.
And it's possible that you're right, that everybody, all these people, Julie, Randall, and I mean, to a lesser extent, Julie and Randall, because Randall's going to smoke up with, with Julie, but they're all,
they're medicating
to a certain degree.
They're self-medicating.
It wouldn't surprise me, though, that Mariel wasn't, though, because she's not.
I like that, but in my head, I have to have it be like that something possessed her then.
Yeah, it has to make logical sense to you.
Yeah, it does. It does.
Well, like most of the things on the show, except until it makes you crazy, like me. And then you start conspiracy theoring. Because again, like you said, Bridget, I got you in my head. Don't worry. Sometimes you just have to wait and see, Dave.
It's true.
Wait and see, Dave. The next episode. You can touch on Tabitha having been to this place, at least in her dreams as a child. Illustrates the point that Miranda and she share at least a vision of this place before they entered that she ignored completely. Fine.
As far as we know, they're the only two people that that's happened to. Now, we didn't explore much more with Elgin.
We rooted it out to be that he saw the vision on the bus when they were already in the town.
Well, after they had seen the tree.
Exactly. So it's kind of like the RV. The RV crashed when they were in the town. So I'm being the Bridget. I don't have too much to say about the Tabitha thing, honestly.
Not yet. It was a really interesting piece of information.
I have one additional piece of information. That's it. Only piece. It's like the Randall thing and the Marielle thing. You're too busy looking at this thing, the fact that she was in this place or dreamt that she was in this place, to not notice. As a child, she's wearing the colonial garb that the Jade's vision person, the spike in the eye and the drinking the blood from the skull thing. I thought
that was weird. I'm like, what, were you at a Renaissance fair?
I mean, you could be absolutely 100% right about that.
No,
because that's all it could be. Somebody went on a murdering spree at a Ren fair.
It's in her dream. But it's almost like, did you and Miranda share the visions of someone who was here previously? Are you sharing those visions? And is that why you both made the same bracelet? Is that something that you had seen before subconsciously?
This also touches on another thing, that nothing is original. That sometimes we think we get ideas from. I'm talking about more artistic works. That's usually where the expression comes from, is that when you hear a piece of music.
Yeah, but that's where we
say that too many times. I'm trying to say it a different way.
It's the good old standby, Dave. It comes from the old Book of Solomon. Okay, so just
I know
take
that.
It. Just take it. It's
Listen,
fun.
I can't always go back to the Bible, but
that's the book for me.
I have grown up around musicians all the time, and one of the things that many people say when they think of a song, and
there's
they say,
literally nothing new.
Wow, it sounds like so original. It sounds like, wow, I've never heard that before. No, you just don't know that you have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Change the chords just a little bit or change the tempo. But there's like a finite number of chord progressions that sound melodically pleasing to the ear.
But this is not to say that when you change something, you've basically made something completely different. You could use a lot of that logic to the bottle trees, by the way. But that's all I'm going to say.
Okay.
How we link this to Tabitha and Miranda is that there could be an element of that, like the Rube Goldberg machine of Henry coming in to stop Victor at that moment with Sarah, because Sarah couldn't be involved in that. She's not here in this episode for some reason.
Interesting. Yeah.
Okay. So there's that. So then something got in the way of their lives to make them go down this path where they make the same bracelet. Tabitha making the bracelet for Jim.
That's what I'm like, did Thomas they see it somewhere in their minds and that they're replicating something they don't know that they're replicating?
We're replicating a series of events that reach this coincidence where they do the same thing. All I'm saying is that I hate it because it's not an answer. No. I mean, they'll reveal it at some point, why that is. I didn't want to say too much about that. The only thing I wanted to point out was the colonial garb in her dream that she happens to be wearing, the scream that she yells at the end of the dream, I guess, looking up.
As something comes over the rock.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like the figure with the spike in its eye and the drinking. Maybe she sees the, oh God, can you imagine as a kid seeing the drinking of the blood from the skull? Yeah. Wow. That would be the scream. It's an accurate scream. But I wanted to move straight on to Fatima and the sonogram. I think it's important to bring that up. Do you mind if I bring up the scientific explanation? Because
no, go
it's
ahead.
very important to bring the great big ball of fire element into this conversation, because I looked up ectopic pregnancy. There's other things called PULs, pregnancy of unknown location. There's that. These things would not show up in a sonogram.
Yeah.
It's so interesting to see all these people of science, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Fatima, look at this thing.
Blasphemer.
And instantly jump to the thing that makes them really afraid. They have the fear in the chamber to resort to. So when you, the audience, because we're all assuming demon baby, it could just be an ectopic pregnancy, but everybody is so afraid that a person who was previously not able to be pregnant is suddenly pregnant, that when they see the blank sonogram, they're like, okay, now she's the demon. No scientific explanation. Everybody throws science out the window.
It could be ectopic. The other thing, there is, I don't know the actual clinical term for it, but there is a form of psychosis in which
they did a pregnancy test.
It can give you false positives. Your body reacts in such a way that you do create the hormone HCG.
The HCG hormone?
Yes.
Ooh.
So you can get a positive test despite the fact that you were not actually pregnant. Now, it requires a deep level of like psychotic want and desire for a child.
You manufacture the hormone.
Correct.
Well, it's okay. So you're talking about also the similar phenomenon that has been recorded of even men being able to breastfeed, because the desire to feed your child produces the glands in the male. So you wonder why men have nipples. Now you know. It's been recorded. It's weird.
Yeah.
It
is weird.
But it's also kind of beautiful. Anyway, I don't want to dwell on that. But in a similar fashion, you can go even deeper on the science. And this is the part I hate the most, because A, there is an element of the moon wears pants, but B, I think this is completely based in science. It completely is on brand for this place. Let's assume a couple of things. One, Fatima eats garbage. can only eat garbage. Compost, effectively. Two, she started lapping up Nikki's blood from her stomach cavity, her abdominal cavity. Three, what was presumably in Fatima's abdominal cavity. You're going to follow my logic? Do you think she absorbed the child that was in her uterus? That's dark.
I don't
Isn't
know,
that
dude.
dark? There's two things I wanted to say, but that was one of them.
Okay.
I went dark before I went simple. The dark is that, maybe something happened to Fatima and she absorbed the pregnancy. She ate the pregnancy from the inside. Dark, super dark.
Ooh, okay, I wanted to look up the name of what I was talking about. It's pseudocyesis, Cyesis. It's also referred to as false pregnancy. Tests will confirm there's no pregnancy, but I have heard that women have been able to get the false positive. They have to be convinced that they don't have a baby by being shown an ultrasound to break them out of not even the hormone production. I mean, they are producing hormones, but that's what can force you out of it. 1 to 6 cases per 22,000 births. So it's not super common. Before at-home pregnancy tests became much more accurate, we're talking like the 90s and earlier, it was much more common.
Even further back.
Because you would want to be pregnant, you'd get a false positive on an at-home kit, and that would be enough proof for you to trigger hormone production and start having symptoms of morning sickness and weight gain.
Pica.
I was really skeptical of that, Dave, because of the blood. Because I was like, that doesn't make any sense. Why would you want blood? And then I was like, what if she's iron deficient?
Listen,
anyway.
Sometimes it takes a while for you to accept the fact that I can be right. I get it. I get it.
Shut
it's
up,
like
Dave. You're wrong. You're still wrong.
It's fine.
You're still wrong.
I acknowledge that I am wrong, but there is another element to the scene that I heard on a Reddit post, by the way.
Okay.
And it was, if this place can get you to see things a certain way, even though they all saw the sonogram and saw that there was nothing there, what if the sonogram was a lie? What if there is something there? They just want them to think there's nothing there. That's another thing.
Oh, that's an interesting theory.
It's because even the Polaroids is showing the kimono wearing lady, something that we said we thought would be a reliable witness. But you have to remember, they found the Polaroid camera in this place and do not know who it belonged to. Anything that wasn't in their hands before they got here is sus, except for the sonogram.
We know that whoever owned the Polaroid probably was in the town at the same time as Christopher, because there is a Polaroid of Christopher in front of the diner with Victor walking behind him.
Point.
It's the only connection that we have to the Polaroid as of right now.
And they go out of their way to explain the Mrs. Davis thing, thus illustrating that, listen, whether you brought it into this place or not, all of it's sus. None of it's to be trusted. None of it is going to give you the answers that you want or to show you the reality that you're supposed to be seeing. Whatever it is that they can do here can alter reality. And so why would they make it so that the sonogram would show nothing? Is to push Fatima to say, I eat garbage. And
I noticed that we haven't talked about the eating of blood, but it's fine.
Well, it's the same thing as the terrors that Marielle, Julie, and Randall see. They can't describe the terror, but they went through it. But if you try to explain it to other people, they don't get it. Mm-hmm. Julie tries to explain it with Elgin. Julie says, you want to smoke? He's like, yeah, please, let's do that because I don't want to think about this anymore.
Yeah. Rachel says, I thought when Elgin took Fatima's picture, it was going to show her dead or as a monster or something along those lines. I wasn't sure, but it didn't surprise me then when all of a sudden we saw the lady in the background.
Right. Because I hate this for me. For the first time ever on this podcast, in a very sincere way, I do not want to be right about what I said about the kimono wearing lady being Fatima in some sort of iteration.
Yeah, I don't want that to be a thing either.
When they did the second season recap, I said that. And there's a reason for it. Again, conditioning. I feel like the show is effing with specifically me. Bridget.
This is when like Angela Kang used to point out things that you talked about.
Right. She used to listen to the podcast. Exactly. But in a non-flattering way. It's not like Angela Kang listened to the podcast and then said, let's write something to really F with them. No, she was doing it and she was like, no, let's give them a little extra because they paid attention. So that's Angela Kang. This show is telling me in my ear, I'm a time traveler. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, you son of a bitch. You were listening to me and now you're just effing with me. I don't trust it. I don't trust that I'm right about this. Just like the show is doing to all these characters, we're going to make you think like you're right. But now I don't trust being right anymore, Bridget. I hate it.
The last time we saw this lady, the lady, because that's who she is. Let's not forget that.
Never forget. They didn't do it this season, but
no, they didn't because it was so ridiculous.
They're like, scratch that.
See, they listened to our podcast and they were like, they're making fun of it. They're making fun of it. It's not scary. It was more ominous this time than it was the previous time. The previous time it seemed a little more genuine, like I need help. This time, I don't know, her hands wrapped around him and kind of tightened. Something
her
about
glassy eyes, you could see.
It just rubbed me the wrong way. I was like, do not help that lady.
Ankui. Same thing. So this brings me to a bigger point because we've said all we can say about this. The bigger point in all of this, I keep going down the list. Seriously, every single person on this show is being tortured. Utterly.
Yeah.
Down the list. Because Fatima is experiencing these issues and she's being pushed to tell people about this thing. It's torturous. She sees Tabitha and how the town has turned on her. It's just a cautionary tale, but the show is pushing her to tell the people because she's scared about this thing that they will definitely think, because they already think it, because it didn't do a transvaginal ultrasound to find out if it was an ectopic pregnancy. They automatically assume demon baby or no baby, or now she's the demon.
All I thought with that is like, she is too early on for you guys to do a stomach ultrasound and know with 100% certainty that there's no baby in there.
Yeah, but statistically speaking, all the signs pointed in the right direction, down to the morning sickness or whatever it was. I'm just saying they automatically dismiss the scientific for the spooky. The point is that it pushes her to keep torturing herself to the point where, and this really broke my heart, honestly, when I saw Fatima going, maybe it'll go away. We don't have to go today. We can go tomorrow.
Don't we all do that, Dave?
But that wasn't Fatima when we first met her.
No, she is broken.
Everybody on the show is being tortured.
She is not who she used to be. You got the symbolism of Tabitha standing at the window looking out over the town at the beginning of this episode, down. Which was exactly what Fatima does in the first season. She shows Julie, don't look down, just look straight out. Anything can be beautiful, even this place.
A nightmare can even become a dream.
The reminder of who she used to be. Because I thought of her when Tabitha was looking out the window.
Well, and Julie even had a flashback to that scene in this season as we come back from season 2 into season 3. See, again, this is why I hate Jade feeling like he's making progress. Again, Tom is the Dave. It makes Tom right. What if this tree is a Rube Goldberg-esque machine? Because again, if we can acknowledge that this place can alter reality or alter what we see collectively even, Why can't it transport people on a whim and make you think that it's a faraway tree, first of all? And so when Jade sees the trees and thinks that he's on the right path, what if all this, and I hate this, the what if part, okay? Bridget, I'm acknowledging this. What if the trees themselves were a thing always just to get to this moment in time to really screw with Jade? And Tom is completely right. They mean nothing. They're meant to F with you, Jade. You really want to beat this place? He says it. He says it. You want to beat this place? Sober up. Because it's effing with you. Mm-hmm. But down the line, Fatima's suffering. It keeps pushing her to suffer, keeps pushing her to reveal the things she doesn't want to reveal. It makes Ellis start to break because he's a little scared, but he's more scared for Fatima. But then they have like a similar argument because Fatima automatically jumps to Ellis being the most scared of her, similar to Tabitha and Jim. Yeah. Because Tabitha, arguably, the only person she can react to is Jim. She can't like start attacking people in the town for being complete dicks.
Well, it's how we are as humans. We always take everything out on the people that we're closest to.
Love the most. Exactly. Yeah. Which is, I love this parallel. Boyd watching his boy suffer makes him break even more because he gets positive when he hears about the ultrasound machine, right? The sonogram. But then when he goes and he sees there's trouble in paradise and then seeing the extent by the end of the episode of that suffering, what once was a beautiful thing is now a nightmare. How far can they break Boyd? Down the line, everybody's being tortured. Jade is being tortured. Ethan, in his own way, is being tortured, hearing all these screaming parent things and realizing that there's a mortality. Henry is even being tortured, knowing about his son, but then also seeing, oh, my son is absolutely crazy for being alone here, all this. Down the line, all the way. Randall especially. Randall's obvious. And even Elgin, the Ankui kids that torture Tabitha. Again, I think it's a red herring. I think it's very natural for a woman who's lost a child to want to help children like Miranda. And so maybe Tom is right about everything in regards to everyone. This place is motivating you to do a thing because it wants you to suffer. Maybe, Abby, it wants you to have hope. Let that ring out for a little while so that I can make you laugh a little bit. I have this notion, because I hate this show, in a way, that maybe Ankui isn't like a translation of Gaelic or Chinese or whatever we thought it was. And some people on Reddit said, oh, it belongs to this tribe of native peoples. And which, okay, very elaborate. I get it. Maybe you're even right. I don't care. I want the show to tell me. But I thought because it's such a weird word, Ankui, I said, what if I put this into an audio program and reverse it? Kind of like what the Christian people were saying, oh, if you satanic reverse panic. Judas Priest, it's like the devil saying things. Okay. So just like this place, it sounds like you know, or you know. Yeah. You know, or weird. You know, depending on how people say it. Yeah. But essentially Ankui backwards is you know.
I hate that.
Isn't that a little spooky?
I hate it.
I hate it so much.
I hate it. Rachel says that is her bedtime. Good night, Ray. Oh, yeah. We love you. She says, some final thoughts. I'm here for Jade. I need him to find something that makes sense. Please. Victor knows so much more than he's saying. Maybe he's not even aware of it. I think that's really what it is. Absolutely. It's repressed. Yeah. And despite everything, I'm actually liking Randall. Tabitha can get lost.
I agree.
And take Julie with her. Donna for the win.
Donna for the loss. The poor woman.
I know.
Just lost her F buddy.
Yeah, there's not much to say about Donna. I'm going to move on because I can't even handle that. There's not much to say about Donna, but I did really enjoy the scene between her and Kenny. She had some good scenes at the pool.
One with Tabitha, one with Kenny. Both happen to share the same house.
Yes. I'm glad that Kenny is, instead of staying, getting upset and feeling hopeless, he decides to move to Colony House. And I think that that's a really good choice for him.
Yeah, it's on brand for this place too.
I think it was the right choice. And
leaning into this life.
Yeah, and I'm not quite sure what the thing was at the clinic. He's working through some stuff still about Christy, clearly. Because then they had that really sentimental conversation out in the cabin, away from Marielle. And I know that this is the one time that he really wants to be able to lean on her because of everything that he's going through, and he really can't. And not only can he not, but Marielle is making it impossible for him to. It's like she knows.
But isn't it more torturous? I'm going to just say this out loud because I think most of us have experienced this, or at least a sizable handful. Isn't it worse when you can't hate her? When she's put together? Yeah. Isn't it the worst? Because you're like, oh, now I'm the bad guy. Yeah. I'm the bad guy. Because for one second, I thought that this person was a horrible human being just trying to steal my lady. Meanwhile, okay, slow your roll, Kenny. They were engaged. And now they're back together.
And he's doing the right thing, but it doesn't make it any less hard. Yeah, he loves Christy.
It makes it worse.
But I think Christy was also his closest friend. So he lost both.
He has a choice, but it's a hard choice. People always think, especially people on shows, do the noble thing character whom I look up to and I want to see myself in.
Mm-hmm.
Kenny, be the noble person. Just let it go. God. No, most people in real life can't. You couldn't that one time, remember? I'm talking to somebody who knows what I'm talking about.
Oh,
AKA myself, but also you.
I stopped talking to a really good friend of mine because he started dating somebody else. And I really, really loved him. And it was super hard. It was super hard. And I told him, I can't pretend like I don't love you and just watch this happen. It was arguably one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life.
I went the other way. And it's not good either. I went out of my way to be friends with a girlfriend that I was with for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
And we broke up. And I was determined because there's something there about needing somebody's approval, even your ex, right? That thing that you have in your head, like, I'm still me, even though you're broken. Mm-hmm. But you need that approval from that person. This isn't going to change me. Meanwhile, I went out with her and this guy she was seeing, and I was completely okay. And I was proud of myself. But at the end of the day, the need to be her friend after that night completely evaporated. Not out of hate, but more out of, what was I doing all that for? Why did I do all that? For some reason, it just clicked. I worked so hard to be okay that really at that point, when I finally did the thing, you're like, all of a sudden you don't care. But why is that? You spend all this time being trapped in the past instead of looking at things to look forward to, this whole life to look forward to.
Yeah.
Because that made me feel better. Because like, oh, wait, hold on a second. I got stuck here for too long. Suddenly I realized the world opened up to me and like, oh, I don't have to care about this anymore. And that's fine. Just because you have to let something go doesn't mean it's a sad thing. You can let it go. It's okay. Yeah. You can let it go. There's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't make you a bad person. That's what it was. It doesn't make you a bad person. I didn't want to be a bad person. I didn't want to be the bad guy. That little piece of you that thinks it's dishonoring the thing that we had. And like, I don't want to lose that. There's an honor in that. There's a nobility in that. Not everybody in your shows are going to be noble and shouldn't have to be. Even though you want to see yourself in that person, and that person you want to see yourself in is a noble person, we still like Kenny, even though it's hard to be Kenny right now. Yeah, that's real.
No, I love him. And I think,
so I'm cool with that.
I mean, I think he's doing the best thing that he can do, which is keeping his distance. But I know that it's hard for him. And we see that in these last...
Calls Chrissy a nursemaid on their little trip.
In these last couple episodes.
I lost it for a second there.
In these last couple episodes, we've seen him really kind of start to break. But to be fair, they didn't get to have a knockout, drag out argument about this. They didn't get to have the big conversation. Marielle showed up and he had to disappear for her. And that's...
Or he felt like he had to.
He felt like he had to. Well, I think she would have agreed with him, which I hate that.
Yeah, well, to give her space. Like, could you imagine him suffocating her? Oof, we've seen that in shows, right?
Yeah, that's true.
You just can't. That friend who you were kind of getting close with, getting a little too close for comfort. You're like, okay, all right. Yeah. Fiance's back. I kind of want to spend more time with her. Awkward, cringe. Ew. So he is being noble. But just like everything, too, this, as soon as they start getting a little closer, or like she gets hurt and there is a closeness, but there isn't a closeness because you're worried about the bear trap that injured her leg, and then you get her back and there's no time to really reflect on the thing you kind of just went through. Back to Marielle. It's hard. It's really, really hard. But it's just like anything. Isn't that another form of torture? Going back to the point, just down the line.
Yeah, of course it is.
Everybody being tortured.
Yeah, it is.
And maybe Marielle is torturing herself by doing the pharmaceutical inventory.
I don't know.
Because she's the only one left to do it.
I don't know.
That's a stretch. Okay. Just a small, tiny thing. Because this is for you, Bridget and Rachel, who's probably maybe going to see this later. When Boyd is with Jade and they're talking about the bottle trees and the discovery thing we can put aside because we talked about that. But when Boyd is trying to listen to Jade talk about dimensional rifts and wormholes and stuff, I got triggered again. Do you know why?
Why?
Because I suddenly found myself on a podcast mentioning something very, very heady that I tried to explain, and watching the glazed eyes on your face and Rachel's face. I'm very into it. You guys are like, no.
It's not like we're dumb.
That's
it's
Boyd.
not like we're dumb.
No, it's not. No, It's not being dumb. It's like this S again. This S. What am I in a philosophy podcast? I just want to enjoy my shows,
well,
Dave.
Here's the thing.
Why are you ruining it for
here's
me?
The thing. We do record.
That's Boyd.
We record at night, and we're all
the
dumber.
eyes start glazing over. I'm so tired. I don't
tired.
need this in my life, Dave.
It was very much the facial reaction I would have given had you started talking to me about dimensional rifts. I would have just been like, because that's exactly what he does. He just looks at him and he's like, what is that?
Oh, the moon is wearing pants. Oh, Jade. Oh, yeah. Jade.
Jade went there.
Dave, Jade. Same syllables, same Dave, Jade, Jaded, David. We'll move on. I just thought that was funny. I did write it in my notes. Maybe Tom was right. They get to go home, or at least things get better if they stop trying to figure this place out. Just like us on the show. As soon as we stop trying to figure things out, maybe we'll enjoy the show better.
I enjoyed it a lot.
There was one more thing. Small, tiny thing. 7s backwards and 2s backwards could mean, doesn't have to mean, it's fine. 7s backwards look like the Greek alphabet gamma.
Okay.
2s backwards look like the Greek alphabet letter zeta. Don't know what that means. Okay. But I just thought, okay, what are things that could be drawn in cursive or numbers that could appear like, but they're not numbers, they're Greek letters. I don't know what that means. It's worth mulling over, worth noting. Although taking a step back, not about this, just about this episode in general, what was the first thing that you said to me when we were, I think, either about to record or just right at the start? There's not much to talk about. And essentially, you're kind of right. This episode was kind of on the slow side of things, wasn't it?
It's weird because usually a slower episode will provide us more to talk about. But it was almost like while there wasn't a ton of movement, there were a bunch of different stories that we had to talk about. We went to Boyd, and then we went to Boyd and Fatima and Ellis, and then we're with Kenny, and then we're with Jade, and then we're with Jim, and we're with Tabitha, and then we're with Ethan and Jade,
Elgin
and Tabitha,
and the kimono
and
lady.
then we're with Elgin, and it's like it just kept jumping, which is fine because it made for an interesting episode.
It was distracting. It was a lot of explosions, little mini explosions.
I'm curious as to where it leaves us now because a lot of stuff started to kind of wrap up. It felt like
together.
Victor went and got Jasper, and so now he has Jasper. But now we're left thinking, is Victor going to be able to make Jasper talk? Is that real, or is that just like a misremembering thing from a very traumatic time in his life? Where is Sarah? Why wasn't she there for any of this?
Yeah.
That's weird. What's going on there? Are they safe? Because they ran into the monsters in the tunnels. Are they really safe right now where they are? Because that's another fear that I have right now. It seemed like it was too easy to leave.
Because maybe they want them to start thinking that they can find something out. But maybe the dummy is meant to torture. Oh gosh. You did it. You did it. You did the thing, Bridget. Again, this episode is about torture down the line. Because what if they just wanted him to have the dummy? Just so it would cause a rift between Henry and Victor. Henry doesn't know how spooky this place can become. He knows about the monsters, the talismans, I'm sure. But he doesn't know, or he's not sure of, the mental state of the son he has not been with for all these years. It tortures him because had I been there, maybe this wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, maybe he'd be okay.
But now that we're here, what can I possibly say to make him okay? Because we are on the inside. We know that that's a possible. The dummy seems to do this Foley scream every time we see it. We saw that. Henry didn't see that.
I was expecting
this is a precarious position.
To do it as soon as he picked it up. Honestly,
but
it didn't. I know.
Although there was the additional stinker of getting Henry all mixed up because when he saw Miranda's scarf,
he could not handle himself.
So now he's stuck between. There's the clear. Okay, this is logical. It's possible that they have her scarf.
Plus, there's more to that because he's like, "Why do they have her scarf?" And Victor's like, "I don't know. They just take things."
I don't know. Now let's listen to Jasper.
He says, this is the thing. Henry's got a really unique perspective because he says, but why do they take the things? And he's like, I don't know. They just do. Henry is saying the things that we didn't know that we had these questions, we had these questions. Why are they taking their stuff? That seems weird. Why is there a motel sign in a pool, but no motel? All that to say, I don't really know. I don't know anything.
Okay,
but anyway,
no.
So that part kind of wrapped up. They got Jasper. It gives you like a natural ending to that point. It's going to go somewhere else now because now they have Jasper. So what does that lead to?
More weird schisms between Victor and Henry, apparently, because I buy that. I buy that that's going to be the purpose of this dummy, is not to reveal a story that is eventually going to be told unless, Bridget, unless you go down the line and Henry tries to figure out a way to have a conversation with his son, and they get to this weird tense because they just want to connect initially. Henry makes a concerted effort to go with him to wherever the scary place that he wants to go, and then he says, "No, I'm going to go with you," and he's really scared while he's there, and he's every right to be. But then, just like Tabitha and Jim kissing in the ambulance, all of a sudden fighting 2 episodes later, you see a little progression there. They're going to get it to the point where they start arguing, and then all of a sudden Jasper starts talking because they got enough torture out of these two. Let's torture Henry now. And Victor be like, yeah, I was just waiting for him to talk. Shut the F up, Victor. He's going to swear at his son now. I just made that up. But this is what I'm talking about, Bridget. Bridget, you're on the money. Henry has a certain perspective that the monsters want to demolish eventually. This place takes a concerted effort to break Boyd the most, tries to see the thing for what it is rather than what it tries to be, like finding the animals in the forest or at the edge of the forest, to be accurate with you because you yelled at me for saying in the forest and then they happen to be people, but they're not people. I went too far. I'm so sorry. But he tries to find logical explanations of how to survive to this place. People didn't bother because they were too busy to be scared to bother. This is the reality of this place. So, but he had that perspective. He's losing it now. Henry has yet to be that way. Jade comes in and is completely skeptical of this place. There has to be an explanation. Now he's using the show's logic to figure out this place. Now he's already trapped. They got him. And they're going to condition Henry just like they condition everybody else, even Ethan, thinking about mortality instead of fantasy. So again, I think this whole thing is just to torture us. I'm convinced at this point.
Well, I like this, so it's not torture, but sure.
Oh, wait till they get you, Bridget. Wait till they get you.
I don't know why I'm the one who's like holding out the longest for this, but I'm still along for the ride. If anything, I felt like this episode was really nice because even though we didn't get any answers, we got the feeling as though there was progress being made. I know it's ridiculous to think that.
But look at all the reveals on this episode. We know what definitely isn't the answer. At least that's what we think. Fatima doesn't have anything at all in the belly. It's not a demon baby. There's no... Oh, wait, what does that mean now? That's an answer.
What does that mean? I know. What does that mean?
Julie, Randall, and Marielle finally are connecting. That's what we said. Why they were chosen to begin with is because they're so far away from each other. Even though the rumor, the reason why they get infected, quote unquote, is because the passing of the rumor, and it happens to find the 3 people who have no connection to each other whatsoever. But now they're connecting. They have a reason to connect now. Why? Because of this thing. 3 people who would have otherwise never connected are now connecting. I don't know what that means.
Unfortunately, I don't know what anything means from this show, but it's okay. I'm just along for the ride.
Again, I think the show's torturing me, but you know what? If you like what you've heard and you feel like this show is going somewhere, but didn't really go anywhere at all, this show, I mean, Squawking Dead, well, head over to ratethispodcast.com/squawkingdead. Leave us 5 stars and an eggplant. It's all we need to know that you love us. But tell us what you liked. Tell us what you didn't like. Just remember to tell us after every single episode. It counts. It helps. We can read it out on the next podcast. We can post it on social media. We just need to know that you're thinking things or feeling things. But if you really like us, you can just follow us on Ko-fi or Patreon. It'll give you the schedules for when we record. Both of those things are completely free to do. Following us on Ko-fi or Patreon will lead you to the recording sessions so you can participate in the chat just like Rachel did today. But if you happen to want to take this support further, you can join a membership tier for as little as $4 a month. And hopefully this comes out in time for Halloween so that you can take advantage of our membership sign-on bonus. All members who join between now and the end of the month will receive a promo pack that I will personally mail to you, a handwritten letter thanking you for heeding the call, our immediate necessary emergency call for financial certainty. If you happen to join a rung above the Walkers tier, that would be the Whispers tier, Great M tier, or Survivors tier, your free classic t-shirt perk will be upgraded to a free hoodie. And as you may know, if you happen to visit the page to see all the perks, one of the defining perks of the Survivors tier and the Great M tier is to have the ability to join us in the studio, giving us your thoughts on these episodes in person, so to speak, with your face, head, mouth. You don't have to be in the chat. You can talk to us in real life, and then you can impress all the people with your big brain with all the wrinkles. If you happen to join the Great M tier, the greatest-ish tier, you can join us in the core channel discussing all the things that we can't share with our general audience. And that would be budget conversations, development ideas, usually like what should we talk about next, where we go from here, blah, blah, blah. Things that we can't generally share with everybody. Like these are little demon buns that are still in the oven that aren't really in the uterus anymore for some reason, which is how most of our conversations go. Somebody will say something, they'll go, yeah, and then it will not be brought up again. And it just goes away. It gets reabsorbed into Fatima's body.
Yep.
I've been your host, David Cameo, and I was joined by Bridget, aka Punky Brewster. You can find on ko-fi.com/Punky Brewster. That's PUNKYBRUISETER. And Rachel was in the chat. That's at Cosmom09, Rachel Burt. I cannot wait to see where these little tiny explosions go, because even though we got these reveals, it feels like we didn't really go anywhere and we were just tortured.
No.
I feel like we need to get something for this. Catch us in the next episode, because we'll be talking about the Walking Dead Daryl Dixon season 2 finale this Sunday. I think. Yeah.
Already.
Thank goodness. We have that many more episodes of From to go to get some sort of resolution or payoff.
Doesn't Silo start soon?
Silo season 2 does start on the 17th of November. Yay. The season of 2 episodes a week continues.
Not for very
We will
long.
get like a week or 2 break, basically. I actually really honestly can't wait to get some sort of payoff. We need the payoff. I need to bait the hook again. Bridget, This was a lot. This was torture. This is a lot. All right. Thank you. Good night. I love you.
Good night. Love you. Bye.
Bye.